Hey everyone, today we're talking about the urban heat island effect. The urban heat island effect is when a city is warmer than the surrounding rural areas. This can happen because an urban area is made of materials that have very low albedos. It can happen when an urban area has not a lot of vegetation that is able to cool spaces down through evapotranspiration, and also because dense urban areas tend to have higher heat trapping capacities. Let's talk first about the first one, lower albedo. An albedo is how much sunlight a surface is able to reflect back into space. Then something with low albedo is unable to reflect as much heat and sunlight, and so it absorbs more heat. A city happens to be made of a lot of things with very low albedos. For example, the roads you drive on are made of asphalt, low albedo, bricks, concrete, gravel. All of these common construction materials have very low albedos. On a sunny day, paved surfaces can be 27 to 50 degrees Celsius hotter than the surrounding air. And when an entire city is made of paved surfaces, well, then you're in trouble. On the other hand, rural areas tend to have a lot of something called vegetation. Vegetation also has a low albedo. But what the grass and the trees do, the concrete can't, is breathe. Let's talk about the second factor of the urban heat island effect, vegetation. Have you ever sat down on a hot summer day and felt how cool and fresh the grass is? If grass has a low albedo, shouldn't it be piping hot just like the concrete? Well, plants can do a cool thing called evapotranspiration. Evapotranspiration is a process in which plants absorb water through their roots and evaporate them through their leaves. Evapotranspiration can cool down the air by using heat from the air to evaporate the water. Unfortunately, if we go back to the first slide, we see that urban areas tend to lack vegetation. You can't really have the same vast expanses of grass and forest as a rural area all the way down in the cramped quarters of downtown Toronto, right? And the cramped nature of cities doesn't just limit the amount of vegetation possible. It is the third factor of the urban heat island effect, the heat trapping effects. The heat trapping effects, or the urban heat canyon, happen when any solar radiation that gets reflected by buildings is not sent back up away from the surface, but is actually bounced around between buildings and is given more chances to get absorbed. This doesn't usually happen in rural areas because there's so much flat ground and houses and infrastructure are spaced well. But in cities, you've got a lot of buildings, you've got a lot of stuff. This leads to higher air temperatures. So, what does this all mean? Well, higher temperatures. Let's take a look at this heat map for the GTA. Usually, if we look at the coastline, water regulates temperature, right? So why is downtown Toronto so much hotter than the rural areas? Technically, or like logically, it should be cooler because it's next to water. This is a perfect example of the urban heat island effect in play. Heat can cause medical concerns like heat stroke and dehydration. Heat can exacerbate medical conditions like cardiovascular disease. But also, heat is just really uncomfortable. It makes us sweaty. It's annoying. Studies have shown that heat makes us less productive. And we just don't like being really hot. So, when it gets too hot, what do? You turn on the AC. While that cool air can feel refreshing, there are some really big problems with your air conditioning unit. Firstly, using AC takes a lot of electricity. AC is responsible for approximately 1,950 million tons of carbon dioxide annually, which is around 3.94% of global greenhouse gases emissions. That's a lot of heating up the planet we do in order to cool ourselves down. But it's not just using AC. Manufacturing, delivering, and installing AC units is also a pretty environmentally damaging process. And finally, perhaps one of the scariest effects, AC units use and leak CFC, which is chlorofluorocarbon based refrigerants such as R11 and R12 that are incredibly damaging to Earth's ozone layer and also have global warming potential 2,000 times as potent as carbon dioxide. That's crazy. So, while we're in our homes fighting off the heat waves, we are directly contributing to next year's heat wave. And as each year gets hotter and hotter, more people use AC, making this a dangerous cycle. So, what are some better solutions? A big one is installing green infrastructure. Things like green roofs or urban forests have really cool effects. Well, urban forests can reduce temperatures by 2 to 5 degrees Celsius. Green roofs in Singapore lowered peak temperatures by 5 degrees Celsius. And green infrastructure, at the very least, can increase biodiversity. Another solution is to install more reflective materials such as cool roofs. Thinking back to albedo, most cities are built out of low albedo materials like concrete and glass. In Southeast Asia, however, high albedo coatings and permeable pavements have demonstrated surface cooling of 4 to 9 degrees Celsius. That's crazy. There are more solutions, such as installing blue infrastructure or changing certain aspects of urban design, but by far the most successful is still green infrastructure. After all, anyone can plant a tree. It's one of the easiest solutions to this big problem. And that is everything you need to know about the urban heat island effect. Thanks for watching.